Hi, in this video we will talk about jQuery events. Up until now we've dealt just with selectors and manipulating the DOM, but events allow us to bind to specific actions that might occur while a user is on your web page. For example, when the user clicks a button, we might use the click event or the double click event, and there are also some more general events available, such as bind and blur, that apply to numerous different types of situations. Once again, we'll start with a blank HTML document. In the examples that are included with this video, that is 1-5-events.html. So you can follow along in there. First thing we're going to do is insert a button right here in the body of the document that the user will be able to click. We'll call this Add New Row because we're going to use the button to add some new rows to the DOM. It's always good to provide a description of whatever your button is going to do. Then we'll have a div tag here called output, where the new rows that are being added will go. Down here we'll put a script tag, just like before. And as always, we'll set up document.ready, which is another event that's available in jQuery. Since we've passed the entire document object to the jQuery function here, it refers to when this entire document is ready. Okay, so we're going to start out by selecting the button up here. We'll just use a standard ID selector for Add New Row, and then we'll bind to the event, the click event of that button. The click event, or whichever one you're using, of course, refers to the object that is selected here. The click event can take several different arguments. In its most basic form, we just add an anonymous function right here. And in that function, we can do some unit of work. For this example, we will append some text to this output tag up here. And we'll put a little bit of HTML in to give each row a separate space. And that should do it. Let's see how this looks. There's the button, and when we click it, there are some rows of text being added. And there it is in the Chrome Developer Tools, so that we can see what has occurred at the DOM level. We can introduce one more advanced concept right here that will show something that we'll delve into later with jQuery, and it's actually an advanced concept of JavaScript, and it's that of closures. So how that works is right here, just inside of document.ready, we are going to declare a variable. We'll call that count, and we'll give it a value of 0. Now what we'll do is we will append that count right here. The count is declared in the outer document.ready function. But you'll notice that when the button is clicked, a new function is fired off right here. And so that new function has to be aware of this variable count in order to display it correctly. But another thing that we're going to do in the new function is we're going to increase the value of count by 1 each time this function is called. Now, in other programming languages, if you had a variable outside of a function in an outer function and you called an inner function, it wouldn't be aware of this variable out here. And when changes were made to it, it certainly wouldn't remember between each function call. Each new function call would just use the original value, which is 0. We'll put the count up here so that it tells us the actual number of times this function has been called. Let's see what happens. There's the first row, and the second, and third, and the count will just keep increasing on and on. This is a good concept to remember. When you declare a variable in an outer function, that an inner nested function will have awareness of that variable. And not only will it have awareness, it'll remember the value that's been assigned to that variable. To further illustrate, if we tried to output that variable here outside of either function nesting, here's what would happen. It's not aware of the count variable, so it gives us this undefined error. There. We've explored the basics of how events work and also learned a little bit about closures in the process.